Okay, so we're holding now by the third shiur of trying to understand what is the shitta of what is the derech of Chabad, and to understand it, we were in the middle of a story how Reb Shlomo Karliner is living in Kalin. He's getting a lot of Kalinas at the time in Lithuania and Poland was one country at the time, and the redifas from the Misnagdim are getting very, very strong. Somebody wrote to me at the beginning of the week, after last year, somebody wrote to me that I made a mistake, that I said that Reb Shlomo Karliner was kicked out of Kalin, that Reb Levitz Baditchev was kicked out of Baditchev, and I said the same thing happened to Reb Shlomo Karliner, and he wrote to me it's not true. Reb Shlomo Karliner never lost his position as Rav in Kalin, which is today called Pinsk. The redifas, it was very close to Vilna. So the redifas from the Misnagdim was so strong that he was looking for where to go. And we discussed that he was invited by the Chassidim of Beshenkovich, which is in White Russia. White Russia is Belarus. Today it's called Belarus. It's an independent country today. But he was invited by the Chassidim over there that it was in the area that the Alter Rebbe was the leader at the time, and he was the Rebbe at the time of that whole area, and he was in response. He was the Talmud of the Maggid that was responsible for that area after the Mendel Docker went to Eretz Yisrael, and he wants to go to, and he's invited, but they didn't want Shittas Chabad. They were looking for the Shitta of Reb Shlomo Karliner, of the Chassidus of what's known as Polish Chassidus. Polish Chassidus meaning Poland was massive at the time. Poland and Lithuania were the same country. It was a massive. It's like America, meaning there was two different countries that came together voluntarily. It was a massive country at the time. So they very much wanted to follow that derech. The Chassidim of they very much wanted because most of the other Talmidei HaMaggid were of the opinion of Tzaddik b'Manosa Yechaya. They very much wanted the Rebbe of that same Ashkofa, of that same Shitta, to come move to them, so that they could go to that Rebbe, so they could go to Peshenke, so they can have a Rebbe that follows the derech of Tzaddik b'Manosa Yechaya, rather than what the Alter Rebbe was being megale. So Reb Shlomo Karliner travels, before anything, Reb Shlomo Karliner travels to the Alter Rebbe to get reshus from the Alter Rebbe to move there, because the Mendel Docker doesn't let, everybody's in charge of the area. Mendel Docker doesn't let that they should go. So he comes to the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe was masking on three conditions. Number one, last time we only discussed one of them. The reason is because the other two, I can mention them in passing. One of them was he made the condition that he shouldn't be mevatel im Torah, and the second one was that he made the condition that he shouldn't be mevatel the natural emotions that a person has. It's a discussion for a different time, but in those two he was masking. Shlomo Karliner was masking to those two. To the third one, which the Alter Rebbe said that he cannot follow a derech of only relying on the tzaddik. For that, the Shlomo Karliner can't accept that. And we just explained the reason is what is this art? What is in the code of tzaddik b'Manosa Yechaya? So we explain it's a Gemara in Makkas. That the 613 mitzvahs, it became very complicated to focus on all 613. So different tzaddikim came and reminded them made main mitzvahs. Main mitzvahs doesn't mean chas v'shalom that these are the important ones, the other ones are not. But if you focus on these ones, memela, you'll do all the other ones. But came Chavakuk for Midah Malachas, and he put all the mitzvahs. He made a one mitzvah. The tzaddik b'Manosa Yechaya. Emunah, you have emunah, you live with emunah, then all the other mitzvahs and meila you're going to do. And there's a play on the words. We explained there's a play on the words of tzaddik b'Manosa. Not only Yechaya, not only with emunah he's going to live, but tzaddik b'Manosa Yechaya, when he has his emunah, by meila he automatically elevates anybody that has that emunah with him. Anybody that's mekushet him, he's able to elevate. So we explained that there's a problem with the chassid working on his own. The more a person needs, the more bittul. Because the more a person is a metzias, the more a person carries his own weight, so the harder it's going to be for the Rebbe to work through that person. The more full vessel the person is, the harder. It's easier to work through an empty vessel. The empty vessel, not chas v'shalom, empty vessel meaning a person that is the less a person has. One of the Gemara I gave last time was the less a person has their own opinion, the easier it is for them to take on another opinion, and for that opinion to for them to live with that. Okay, so same thing obviously in the neshama. The more a person is a metzias on his own, not only in the neshama, nefesh hamayim also. The more a person is a metzias on his own, so the harder it's going to be for the ruach of the head neshama, of the leader neshama, of his own personal neshama to be able to elevate him. So therefore, Reb Shlomo Kalina can't be masked. Okay. What's the Alter Rebbe's shit? Reb Shlomo Kalina has a good point. The more mitzias a person is, the more of a personality is, the more avodah he does, the more mitzias he is, then the less the harder it's going to be for the tzaddik to elevate him. Or perhaps the less, the harder it's going to be for the tzaddik to elevate him. Let's put it that way. So we discussed Adam Rishon. That Adam Rishon lechatchila, his entire Dira B'Tachtonim in the first year, his entire Dira B'Tachtonim, the Eibusha creates the world for Dira B'Tachtonim, right? He wants Dira B'Tachtonim, that we should be able to perceive God Elikos everywhere. We should see how everything in the world is Elikos. That's Dira B'Tachtonim. That we should perceive the table, everything should perceive. That the Welt soll der Herren Elikos, that they should, not der Herren, that there is a concept of a Eibusha, that everything should understand that the only Metzias is the Eibusha. That's Dira B'Tachtonim. Lechatchila, the Eibusha created Adam Rishon, that it should all be in Seichel. Then Adam Rishon eats from Neitzadas, and he develops a Taino Gashmi. So now, not only is it in Seichel, Dira B'Tachtonim happens in Midas as well. Good. Says the Alter Rebbe like this. I don't understand something. Let's say you do a Pa'ula Gashmi. Did something brilliant. What did you do? You shook lulav. Yeah, shook lulav. You achieved an amazing thing. Comes the Rebbe, adds whatever he adds to the mitzvah, adds kavanas to the mitzvah, and elevates the mitzvah to where it has to go. So the mitzvah, the Maisa mitzvah of lulav, has been elevated to the highest place it could go, to wherever a Rebbe. My little Maisa mitzvah, my shaking lulav now, is not just, I've done the action of shaking lulav, and the Rebbe has added, because I'm so bottled to a Rebbe, so the Rebbe has added to that shaking lulav, I'm only the hands. The koyach, the koyach eleki, the ruach, the kavana is the Rebbe. So the Rebbe has that because I'm so able to connect, because I'm so connected to the Rebbe, because I'm not metzias b'fnei atzmi, I'm so bottled. So the Rebbe is able to elevate that. The Rebbe takes that inyan, and so now my lulav went leilo. My lulav went wherever a Rebbe takes a lulav. Says the Rebbe, it's gewaldig. Maisa mitzvahs, it's perfect, but we're missing something. At the end of the day, what happened to my mind? What happened to my mind? What happened to my heart? Has my mind changed? Has my heart changed? In Tzadik B'Munasa Yechai, if we're leaving the mind and the heart up to a Rebbe, then there's no Dira B'Tachtonim in my heart and in my mind. My emotions don't change. My emotions are non-existent. My mind doesn't change. My mind is non-existent. So Dira B'Tachtonim stops where? In Maisa. It's the lowest thing, it's true, but Dira B'Tachtonim is missing something out. It's missing out something fundamental. My mind. Now, are you going to tell me it's not true? You go to a Rebbe, and the Rebbe says, I have one word, and that word elevates a person. That they say that in Kalin, there's Makubal Maisa, that the Shlomo Kalina was one time in a town with a lot of Lubavitchers. Wasn't Lubavitch at the time, it was a lot of Chassidim. Chassidim Chabad. And he didn't speak the whole Shabbos. By Shalosh Shudas, he said one word, and that word, and on Hazorim Bedima Berino Yiktzoiro, and that word elevated the Chassidim, shook up the Chassidim to such heights that on Sunday they couldn't go back to work. That's by a vertel, sounded like a vertel, by a short word, and they traveled to the Alter Rebbe to talk about it. Says the Alter Rebbe. So in other words, of course there's emotion, of course there's excitement, but the question is, whose excitement is it? There was once two Chassidim. there was two chassidim. There were times where in towns there was there were very few people. There was very few people. There was a lot of Yidden, but chassidim wise, you could have two chassidim, 5 chassidim, 10 chassidim. You could have very small numbers of chassidim in a town. And there was one town where there were two chassidim. Two chassidim in the whole town. One was a Talmud of the Alter Rebbe, was a chassid of the Alter Rebbe, and the other was a chassid of Reb Chaim Chaike from Amdur. Chaim from Amdur was one of the other, one Talmidei HaMaggid. Now the chassid of the Alter Rebbe davened in the derech of the Alter Rebbe. He says the derech of the Alter Rebbe taught. He woke up in the morning and he learned chassidus and it's durchgetracht and he was misboinen and he mamish worked on his machshava. He good durchgearbeitet Indian and he was misboinen for 2 hours and then he davened, and sometimes the davening worked and sometimes it didn't. It's human. We're all human. The chassid of Reb Chaim Chaike was he didn't know any chachmalach. He woke up in the morning, he came to shul, he didn't learn chassidus, he wasn't misboinen, and as soon as he started davening, he would flacker and he would jump and he would shout and he would run. He davened with his slavis every single day. And the chassid of the Alter Rebbe mamash bothered him. He works so hard, and some days he's matzliach and some days he isn't. And here you have a chassid of Reb Chaim Chaike who doesn't work. He comes to shul, he starts davening, and it's gate, davening gate. So the next time the chassid comes to the Alter Rebbe, comes to Liozhna, he complained to the Alter Rebbe. He told the Alter Rebbe what's bothering him. The Alter Rebbe told him, nicht davent. Reb Chaim Chaike davent. Not the chassid is not davening. It's Reb Chaim Chaike. Technically, he's saying, so what's the point, Hakan? So let's go back. So we understand what the Alter Rebbe is saying. The Alter Rebbe is saying, hold on a second. You haven't changed. It's true. You've shaken lulav and you've put on tefillin. The Maisa mitzvahs have been done. There's no dira b'tachtoinim in your mind. Your mind hasn't changed. Dira b'tachtoinim means that there's a change. It's changed. It used to be. Let's look in Kedusha. It used to be a part of a cow, and now it's tefillin. It's holy. It's changed. It's holy. It's become holy. What has happened to your mind if you haven't changed your mind? If it's only somebody else. One day, if they invent a way of putting in a chip of information, they could just implant it straight into your brain. What are you going to know? Ask a better question. What does Oitzra Chochma, the disk, not the disk, no, the hard drive of Oitzra Chochma, what does the hard drive know? What does the computer know? Nothing. Be'etzem. It all depends on what's plugged in. If you're going to have a chip in your mind, it's going to be called knowledge. It's going to be called Yediyah. It's going to be called access to Yediyah. Says the Alter Rebbe, I don't understand. Das is dira b'tachtoinim. You're missing if you don't. If your mind hasn't got to there on its own. If your emotion hasn't got to there on its own. Forget the mind. Now the emotion. If you're excited because the Rebbe got you excited, that's not excitement. It's not excitement. You're excited for the moment is brilliant, but if you're excited because the Rebbe got you excited, you're not excited. It's like entertainment. Entertainment is not real. A person that can't be happy by himself in the room. So if he's going to put on music, it might make him happy for the time, but it might be a technicality that he needs to snap out of. But a person putting themselves in an atmosphere if they are not changed by the atmosphere, so the atmosphere remains atmosphere, and the minute they leave that atmosphere, they're out of it. So says the Alter Rebbe, we're missing. Says the Alter Rebbe, you can't just rely on the tzaddik because you're missing a fundamental part of dira b'tachtoinim. You haven't changed one person. You've changed the whole world. You haven't changed one person, yourself. There's no dira b'tachtoinim. Your mind doesn't perceive elikus. Your heart doesn't feel elikus. You don't. It's somebody else's. It's your technically now it is, but it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. Not like a piece of paper that you write on Torah, which you have to then put into shemus because it's holy. Not like a Sefer Torah or Tefillin or Mezuzah, which is now holy. No, a technicality, something that you used once for Kedusha. Yeah, a computer. A computer you can't walk into if there's Torah on the screen, so you can't walk into a place that you can't bring Torah into it. Turn it off. So computer's holy. If I'm learning off a screen, it's a heilige Zach. It's not. that didn't change. It's a technicality of what's flashing on the screen at the moment. But take away what's flashing on the screen at the moment, it never changed. So is there dir betachtonim in the computer if the computer fundamentally didn't change? Okay, the point is the person did a lot of things. And he felt it. And that Maisa went all the way up, went exactly where it's supposed to go. And it's on a very, very high level. But in dir betachtonim, what is nishuf getan? Now the person not only has to change, not only does the person have to elevate his mind, he has to elevate his emotion also. Okay. Nur that Rebbe has doch a good time. What does Reb Shlomo Kalina want? Reb Shlomo Kalina has another nekuda. Not only does Reb Shlomo Kalina say tzaddik b'menaseh yechaya, that's it. That's all I have to sit home, and that's it. No, I have to do the mitzvahs. Amunah pshuta. Amunah pshuta. What's amunah pshuta? What is amunah pshuta ultimately? Amunah pshuta means, regardless of the fact that I don't understand, I'm going to do the mitzvahs. Similar to Kabbalah soil in a way. In a way, Maisa mitzvahs. You know, in Karlin, in Stalin, they talk a lot about the nekuda. I don't know if still today, but in Beis Hanan it talks a lot about the nekuda. Nekuda, what's the nekuda? Talks with no oisius, chagas, with no oisius. Nekuda, what's the nekuda? So it's explained. The Beis Hanan it's explained in one place, maybe more than one place, but it's explained. The nekuda is amunas chachamim and amunas Hashem, ma'isa ava v'yireh. But ava v'yireh comes through ma'isa, which means I do and I do and I do and I do and I do, and then there's memela de ka'ava. Okay, in other words, like this, Reb Shlomo Kalina doesn't chas v'shalom say sit at home and rely on the Rebbe. He says do as many mitzvahs as you can. Do as many mitzvahs as you can. Says the Alter Rebbe, you're right. Do as many mitzvahs as you can. It's true. You'll do as many, but there's going to be one problem. There's going to be one problem. Your mind never changed. Your actions changed. You did whatever you had to do. Your mind never changed. You are not able to look at something and say, Elikus. You can't. You can't. It could be the Rebbe will give you that thought, and for a minute you'll be able to see it. It could be for a lifetime you'll be able to see it, but it's not you seeing it. It's you making your mind fully blank and allowing somebody else to play a video in your mind. Allow somebody else's video to come into your mind. You might feel something. You might feel Ahavas Hashem, but you don't feel Ahavas Hashem. You're watching a video. You're putting yourself into an atmosphere what's not you. So you never changed. Okay. I hope it's clear. This is the Machlokes Alter Rebbe and Reb Shlomo Kalina. This is why the Chassidim, you have to work very hard for this. For this, you have to work very hard. And this is why the Chassidim, a lot of the Chassidim, a lot of the Chassidim, they wanted Reb Shlomo Kalina to come. Because the Shitta of Chabad, the Derech of Chabad, is very different than the Derech that they were used to. Now, where did the Alter Rebbe get the Derech from, by the way? So, the Magid, not only did the Magid talk to the Magid would talk to the Talmidim, to Magid at 120 Talmidim, which we discussed last time. And so the Magid talked to his Talmidim. And there was also many other people at the time. And he would say certain things, he would say things that the Talmidim understood in one way through Kitzvei Arizal. And understood through Kabbalah, he understood it in one way. But the Hamoin Am that was standing there understood it as in a practical, in a bechein, in a musadik oifen, in a seist in adrach. They took from a Dira Shemai. The way the Maggid spoke, there was a lot of things could be taken from it. And the Alter Rebbe was Mekabel from Rebbe Avraham Malach. We know this. We're going to jump ahead a little bit. We're going to come back. But we're going to jump ahead just two minutes. The story we're going to discuss later, which is that there's the Rebbe Avraham Kalisker. We discussed last time Rebbe Avraham Kalisker. Rebbe Avraham Kalisker gets involved as well. About 10 years after the story. A little bit less. 7 years after the story. 6 years. And the Alter Rebbe, when he writes Rebbe Avraham Kalisker, he writes to him that I didn't ask you as comment from the Tanya. He's against the Tanya. He writes, I didn't ask you as comment from the Tanya. I know what the Tanya is the way I was Makabel from the Maggid from Avraham Malach. Rebbe Avraham Malach was also Shitta. This Shitta also very clearly of Remendel Haridokim. This Shitta of Chabad, very clearly, it seems, is also the Shitta of Remendel Haridokim. two people we know was Zicha masking with this, Rabbi Yehuda Leib HaKohen and Rabbi Zushim Anipol. Okay. Although, Yashlach, something we'll deal with the Mitzvah Shem later, is whether or not they were masking for Amoinam. Okay, but let's deal with it. Now, okay, so Rabbi Shlomo Kalina doesn't move there. Rabbi Shlomo Kalina goes back home. He doesn't go back home, he moves in the end to a place called Ludmir. Ludmir is in Poland. Same country he's living in now, the other end. He moves to a place called Ludmir, and that's where he sets up shop. Now sets up shop. That's where he makes his chotzer. That's where he begins to shine oiroi le'olam. It's very important to point out that when we talk about a machloikus in Alter Rebbe and Rav Shlomo Kalina, and the difference of opinion, Alter Rebbe and Rav Shlomo Kalina were extremely close. There was never any sort of. There was times that there was a machloikus that came to kpedus between the Alter Rebbe and some of the other Talmidei HaMaggid, which are different stories. But this wasn't with Rav Shlomo Kalina. This never happened. Rav Shlomo Kalina moves to Ludmir. The end of the story with Rav Shlomo and the Alter Rebbe becomes the Rebbe in White Russia. The Talmidim that wanted the Alter Rebbe to come, it's already over. So the Mendel Haradoker puts an end to it and says this is the way it's going to be. Like I mentioned, he puts an end to it. In fact, there was shluchim that were coming the whole time from Eretz Yisrael. Once a year at least, there would come a shliach from Eretz Yisrael to Russia. The Mendel Haradoker was still the Rebbe of the area. And there was shluchim that would come from him. And one of them was Tzvi Hirsch Baal Shem Tov. It's a story for a different time. But Tzvi Hirsch Baal Shem Tov means miracle worker. Rav Shlomo Kalina was known as the small Baal Shem Tov. It's Talmud, the Rosh the Rosh Stalin said on him and his Malamakim said on him that why a small Baal Shem Tov? It was a big Baal Shem Tov. It was the full thing. But he was a Baal Moifus. Rav Shlomo Kalina Mishrudikim Ofsim. A famous story that we tell that we have in Chabad from Rav Shlomo Kalina's Moifus was when the Chassidim went to mikveh. They went to mikveh, and in those days you had to cut a piece in the ice. And in order to make it manageable, so after you cut a piece in the ice, they took with them a huge pot of hot water, and they poured it into the ice, and they jumped in right after, so that it was, before the hot water was able to go, it was more or less, it at least took away a bit of the chill. But Poyol, there was a group of Chassidim that they dug a hole, and one of them had gone down. They did for one of them, they poured in one bucket, and one of the Chassidim had gone down, whether to go to mikveh or to check something out, whatever it was. The kids said they came and they didn't notice that he went down, and they poured another, the chassid of Rav Shlomo Kalina. One's the chassid of Rav Shlomo Kalina, the other's the chassid of the Alter Rebbe. Chassid of Rav Shlomo Kalina pours the second bucket, and the chassid of the Alter Rebbe comes up, and he's in this, and with the cold, chassid of the Alter Rebbe passed away on the spot. The mix of the boiling hot with the cold, and the chassid takes him to Rav Shlomo Kalina. Rav Shlomo Kalina is b'chayim eisim. Tells him afterwards he has to stay by him. Rav Shlomo Kalina tells the Alter Rebbe's chassid, you have to stay by me. I was mechaye you, so he wouldn't. But it's a story. It's kids. So you have Rav Tzvi Baal Shem Tov, also a big Baal Moifus, moves with the Mendel Haradoker to Eretz Yisrael. He comes back down very often he comes to Russia quite often and he tries to be poil on the Mendel Haradoker to allow a different. He's trying to explain to him it's a different derech. It's different over here. It's not that there's two people and you don't want to mix territories. It's two different shittas. So the Mendel Haradoker b'shum panav oifel won't allow it, to the extent that after the same chassid that was sent with the letters from the Chassidim asking Chassidim and Beshenkovich asking that Rav Shlomo Kalina, asking the Mendel Haradoker for a shus Rav Shlomo Kalina to move, that same chassid he came back with letters to the Mendel Haradoker saying b'shum oifel not. Anyway, so Rav Shlomo Kalina moves to Ludmir. Chassidim try a few more times. Mepoil by just before the Stalkos of Mendel Haradoker, he writes a letter and he closes it down mikol v'kol, and even the Chassidim of Mendel Haradoker, even the ones that didn't agree with the Alter Rebbe's shitah, agreed with the shitah of Shlomo Kalina, they took this say the psak achron from the Mendel Haradoker was at the time was it in Tovkuf Memches was it this is how it's staying. This is how it's staying, and the Alter Rebbe is people should not come. Chassid Chagas should not come to that area. Okay, so we have now Chassidus has suddenly taken two approaches. Okay, we haven't gone from the beginning of Chassidus, but you have the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid, and now Chassidus is more or less come into two approaches. The derech of Isboinunus, which is the derech of the Alter Rebbe, which says that you need to change. The individual himself needs to change. And if his brain, if he doesn't perceive something, and if he doesn't feel something on his own, then it's not him, and therefore there was no dira b'tachtoin in him. And you have Reb Shlomo Karliner, or Chassidus Chagas, Bechlal, or Chassidus Apolim, most Talmidei HaMaggid, who say that the risk involved in chokhmah, in the derech of his boinunus, the risk involved is too great, and better have bittul to the tzaddik. What's the risk? What's the risk? The risk is obvious. By the Polisher, what we call the Polish again, because most Talmidei HaMaggid moved to Poland, lived in Poland. Or what was at the time Poland. Yeah? But by Chassidus Chagas, by all other Chassidusen, by most other Chassidusen, there's the minhag to give a hand to the Rebbe. By Chabad it wasn't a minhag. Chabad not only was a minhag, we don't. Actually, there's a story. There was they say the story from, and I didn't verify it with his children. So, but they say the story. They say that when Leibel Bistritsky, Olav Hashalom, was standing with his son Levi, Olav Hashalom. They were standing in 770, and the Rebbe gave his hand to Levi, to the young boy. And Leibel Olav Hashalom immediately said, Rebbe hab Rachmanis. The Rebbe told him, Unter bar mitzvah shat nicht. Under bar mitzvah doesn't, it can't harm, doesn't harm. Point is, there was a why not give the Rebbe the hand? The answer is very simple. There is a pitfall. At the end of the day, Reb Shlomo Karliner's concern with his boinunus is a fair concern. Again, you don't ignore the purpose of why we're in this world just because there's a concern, says the Alter Rebbe. But Reb Shlomo Karliner's concern is a very justified concern. What happens a person that's not a Veltad? Let's back up. Reb Shlomo Karliner is supposed to learn Chassidus, right? Yes. He is supposed to be mispoinen. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because he's a tzaddik. He's supposed to do it. Yeah. There are some people, according to the Alter Rebbe, who need a mun pshute, who das is challenging for them, which is something we'll discuss a different time. Okay, good. But yeah, for your average person, Reb Shlomo Karliner says it's risky. Why is it risky? Because what's going to happen? You become mitzias. You need to feel. You need to work. You become mitzias. So your problem is his kashrus is going to suffer. Which is why you don't give a hand to the Rebbe. If a Chassid Chabad by nature, until he gets to a darga of real bittul, a Chassid Chabad by nature is a bit more of a Metzias than a Chassid Chagat, than a different Chassid. He's a Metzias. He's talking about himself for much of the day. He's thinking about himself for much of the day. He's thinking about his own avodah. He's trying to understand the word. So it's harder to be bebittul. And therefore you need to do a Chassid Chagat that gives a hand to the Rebbe. He's not giving Shalom Aleichem. He's not a companion in any way. He's bottle of avotl. He's getting like by giving shalom, he's getting a boost of koyach. A chassid Chabad could chas v'shalom be misconstrued to the chassid himself to being, I gave the Rebbe the hand. Me, I understand. Last night I understood the word. Now, of course, for the real chassid that made it all the way, it won't be an issue. For the Beinani, it won't be an issue. But for your average person still working on becoming a Beinani, still trying to get there, could become a problem. I'm just trying to say how in Chabad we have there's things that we have them in Hogim that are built in, which is Bavaranim, because we do have that chisaron. Not only that, you have the chisaron. There's another big chisaron of too much thinking and too little ma'aseh. You see, you always have that in-between stage. Whenever you're going to be mizboinen, you have a stage where you're mizboinen, and it doesn't go. What is boinenus? We discussed this before. Spoinus is that I think about something, I connect to something in a way that, if you want to call it single-minded focus, yeah, where there's only one thing in my mind, but whatever the case is, once I get to hisbonenus, when I think about that, it becomes to such a clarity that it's such a clarity that I'm able to see it without even seeing it. Yeah, I'm able to perceive it, to feel what it would feel like without even having to have ever felt it. I gave a dogma. If you want to, of you don't have to see somebody be knocked over to know to look before you cross the road, because it's something that's built in over the years. You've probably developed so much of an understanding of what the risk is of crossing the road without looking that you don't need to actually see it in order for that to happen. So it's das, yeah. But there's a middle stage. There's a stage where you think and you think and you think and you don't have das. What happens then? So you're busy trying to understand the Vart Chassidus. The Vart hasn't yet been poil on you. It hasn't yet properly been poil on you. You don't understand the Nakuda properly. So you're an academic. It doesn't mean that you're not but there is a middle stage of where, or you could get sidetracked to academia. You could become an academic, meaning you could get distracted by the academic, the intellectual element, and not bring it into the heart. So if all you're doing is you're getting, this is an interesting idea, this is an interesting concept, you could get caught up in the chakira, in the arum, and not in any way you can get fachat in the arum and get stuck there. So there are pitfalls. And Ibn Shlomo Kalina and most of the Talmidei Maggid are very concerned of these pitfalls, and therefore they say, so leave it. Better have bittul. Better be safe. Bittul is easier. If you don't have it lechatchila, bittul becomes easier. Says if you don't have das lechatchila, if you don't have a tifa verstand, so leave it. And better to be bottled and do ma'isa mitzvahs. You can't go wrong with doing ma'isa mitzvahs. That's what it's all about. So do ma'isa mitzvahs, do ma'isa mitzvahs, do ma'isa mitzvahs, do ma'isa mitzvahs. Your mind, and you won't have a dira b'tachtonim in your mind and heart. It's true. But you won't have the pitfall. Says the Alter Rebbe. What's the point? so bring a person down without a nefesh, without a yetzer hara. Says the Alter Rebbe. For that, come down without the yetzer hara. Then you also won't go wrong. That's not the point. The point is to have the yetzer hara and to fight the yetzer hara and to win. To have a nefesh habahamis and to elevate the nefesh habahamis. That's the point. To elevate the nefesh habahamis. The point of so what are you going to say? Don't be misboinen because there are pitfalls. The pitfalls are obvious. We don't have to look too far. Today we don't have to look too far. So not only even today, especially today, we don't have to look so far to see the chisroinus. What the chisroinus chas v'shalom, the challenges that it could come from focusing on hisbonenus. But it's true. We have to be cognizant of those challenges, and we have to know what they are, and deal and notice when they come up and deal with them. But it doesn't mean that we have any. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't focus on the main thing. So I hope so far we've got a little bit of a understanding of the shita of the difference. The difference. Everybody agrees with the 630 mitzvahs, and everybody says the difference is passion and hisbonenus in this one nakuda. Should the chassid understand something on his own, change his own mind, and feel something on his own, meaning that emotion, that ava that he feels is real and it's him, or should he not? Or should he not take that risk? And the Alter Rebbe says, not taking that risk is like coming to this world. Is that a yetzer hara? What do you mean not taking that risk? That's what we're here for. We're here for dira b'tachtonim. Dira b'tachtonim in ma'isa, dira b'tachtonim in machshava, and dira b'tachtonim in midas. That's what we're here for. Okay. Now what's interesting is like this. What's interesting is that the Alter Rebbe at the beginning, the Alter Rebbe does both. When the Alter Rebbe first becomes Rebbe, at the beginning, after the Mendel Haradaka goes to Eretz Yisrael, to get in the details of whether The Alter Rebbe, what exact year the Alter Rebbe took on the Rabban, was it Rabista, was it straight away at the beginning? Whatever the case is, but from the beginning, the Alter Rebbe follows a very interesting. The Alter Rebbe does both. In public, the Alter Rebbe says Mamorim Aktsorim. The Alter Rebbe says short Mamorim, and from the short Mamorim, the Alter Rebbe could come down and say one short vart, and that could balaych the Chassidim for 3 months. That one short Indian would mamish like Keminik Poilen, Keminik Chagas. But the Alter Rebbe saying a vart, it would baleb the Chassidim. Privately in Yechidus, the Alter Rebbe gave everybody their own derech, and everybody got a hadrache to the limit, to the best, to based on their shoyresh haneshama, based on who they were, based on their avodah, based on their capabilities. That everybody got their own avodah. This is at the beginning. So what's interesting to point out is we talk about Far Peterburg and Nach Peterburg. The famous, yeah, before Peterburg and after Peterburg. Before Peterburg, Chassidus was short. What's the point of short Chassidus? The Alter Rebbe did both. In Yechidus, the Alter Rebbe did Chabad. In Yechidus, the Alter Rebbe gave people a derech in avodah, in his boinus, whatever, what was shaykh to the person. In Mamorim, generally speaking, the Alter Rebbe said very short Mamorim, and through the Mamorim Chassidus, the Alter Rebbe baleb the Chassidim. The Alter Rebbe did both. Until the Alter Rebbe wrote Tanya. The Alter Rebbe wrote Tanya, because if you think about it, why did the Alter Rebbe go to jail only after Tanya? Only after he wrote the Tanya. He says, why was the Kapeda only after he wrote the Tanya? Because Tanya, what Tanya did was like this. Mitamol, Tanya becomes Nachlas Aklam. Now the Alter Rebbe writes Tanya in a method. Tanya is not, you're not supposed to open up the Tanya and figure it all out by yourself. Tanya is supposed to be learned as a mashpia. So Alter Rebbe writes in Akdama. You want to make it practical, you can't do it yourself. Take a mashpia who's going to learn with you. So some people are going to focus on Perich Vav, Chav Zayin, Chav Ches, that's what mashpia is and says in those brokim. Others their Indian is from brokim. Yeah, others Shaykh Namunah B'chla. Others from Perich Mem Aleph. Every mashpia is going to teach the mushpa, the person learning Tanya, is going to bring out to them or give them the practical guidance that's shaykh to that person. Nevertheless, Tanya suddenly, now at that point, Chassidus, this nekuda of his boinunus mamash becomes nachlas haklal. Beforehand, it was given to the people there were some people that relied on Sadik Rebbe Nasa Yechaya, seems, by the Alter Rebbe. They knew that there's deeper. They knew that there's people that should be doing deeper, and not only Rebbes should be doing deeper. There are a large amount of Chassidim that are being misboinen. But they know that wasn't the derech they were given. Their derech is bittul. Ma'isa, mitzvahs, and bittul. Or to the best of their ability. As the Alter Rebbe writes in a letter, the Alter Rebbe writes that he doesn't, this whole, that of course there's a munah, but the gamva pum machtata machachmona karya. A munah that's just in the heart, that's a natural munah. If it's not real, then it doesn't affect you. Okay, so before Peterburg, the Alter Rebbe gives it before Peterburg, the Alter Rebbe gives it to a small to everybody gets what they need to get. That changes after Peterburg, and what exactly changes? Will Mitzvah Hashem continue in the next year? I should conclude, by the way, that Shem Kalina moves to Ludmir. I just can't remember if I said this at the beginning of the year. Shem Kalina moves to Ludmir. He does keep a little connection with the Chassidim in Reisen, what they call them, right? White Russian, Belarus. But he moves to Ludmir, and the end is it's very sad. He in Tov Kuf Nun Beis, only about 5 years later, after this whole story, no, more, but not much more. There's a war. There's a war in 1792. There's a war between Russia and Poland. Russia starts to conquer parts of Poland. That's more or less the end of this whole Poland-Lithuania alliance. Russia starts to take more and more from it. As the famous joke goes, that the Russian border kept changing. The border between Russia and Poland kept changing. So one time it landed right in the middle of an old Yidl's house. And they asked the Yid, no, so where would you like to be, in Russia or in Poland? You could choose. He's on either side. So I said, no, where would you like to be? He says, oh, of course I want to be in Poland. So the Russians get very insulted. You insult Mother Russia. What do you mean? Who wants to be in Poland? You want to be in Russia? Say, why do you want to be in Poland? He says, I can't take another Russian winter. I need it to be a bit warmer. They say Poland's a bit warmer. So, but Poland eventually, there's a war. Reb Shlomo Karliner is on the side of Poland in this war. He wants the Polish to win. The Polish did win. The Polish at that point, the Polish hadn't conquered Ludmin, and they were in the middle of davening. Reb Shlomo Karliner had his head in the Arna Kodesh. He was davening the whole time. He had his head in the Arna Kodesh, and a soldier came to the window, and the Einokol tugged him or something. He stopped for a second, took his head out of the Arna Kodesh for a second, and he shot an arrow. The arrow was on Shabbos, and the arrow went into his leg, and he began to bleed. They said, I'm trying to remember who said it. One of his Talmidim said that be'etzem there was supposed to be 100,000 Yidden was supposed to be killed or something. And Reb Shlomo took it all on himself. He was Matzli. Reb Osher Stoliner. Osher Stoliner went to mikveh at the time. While they were shooting right next to the base medrash, he ran to mikveh to be able to be mechavan certain kavonas to be able to get rid of the gzeira that was on. There was a sakona on them in shul, and he came out the mikveh and he said that it's too late. Reb Shlomo was poiled his way, and that he took on himself. There was supposed to be I think, if I'm not saying it was 100,000, I don't remember exactly. There was supposed to be a lot of Yidden were supposed to be killed, and Reb Shlomo Karliner took it on himself. It's the last days of Hashem is fascinating. The whole he didn't let them take out the arrow on Shabbos. He said, "For that narishkeit, we're going to ruin Shabbos." And then there was even with Macholi Shabbos, they hadn't the soup. He said this a few times. The soup was something they forgot. And he said people are so confused that it's for being a war going on between Russia and Poland, two serious countries fighting each other, and there's people dying. And Shlomo says for such silliness, we're belittling. We're not trying to the lashon exactly, but we're making we're being mevatel oinig Shabbos because somebody forgot to put the soup on the fire or something. Anyway, 5 days later on Chav Beis Tammuz, Tav Kuf Nun Beis, if I'm not mistaken, Reb Shlomo Karliner is a stalik. And he's taken over by the son of his. He's taken over by the son of Reb Aaron Karliner, of Aaron Agadol, Reb Osher Stoliner, and by Reb Mordechai Melechevich, and that's a different story, which Amit Hashem will get to another time. But that's already when the borders break down and the borders change, and eventually there's Reb Aaron Karliner. Eventually Reb Avram Kalisker, like we explained last time, Reb Avram Kalisker gets involved in Eretz Yisrael, and it goes against the derech of Chabad, and there's a very, very, very interesting set of letters back and forth from the Alter Rebbe to Rebbe Avram Kalisker. From that, that's where we glean exactly. This story helps us understand the shit of Chabad, which was called at the time Shittas Hisbonenus. Anyway, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll continue all of this in the next year, next week, Mitzvah Hashem.